If the Australian television show Neighbours is anything to go by, people actually talk to their neighbours next door. That's just weird. Neighbours started on Australian television in 1985. It was the brainchild of Reg Watson, who had put together a series of other soaps such as Sons and Daughters and Prisoner Cell Block H, both of which were incredibly popular in Australia. His concept was that the show would focus on realistic stories and have adults and teenagers talk openly to solve their issues and problems. Despite initial struggles, a switch from Channel 7 to 10 and a few additions to the cast like the huge grilled Kylie Minogue and the flappy mulleted Jason Donovan saw the show go from strength to strength until it caught the eye of the BBC. The BBC were looking to fill their daytime television schedule, and initially it went out twice a day, once in the morning and once at lunchtime. That was until BBC One's then controller Michael Grade was approached by his daughter Alison, who informed him he was being an oaf and that he had best shift it to after school, as she and her pals loved it and kept missing it. And to this day, what remains as the greatest ever television scheduling by a teenage girl, the BBC switched the morning show to 5:35 p.m, when all the kids could watch it, and lo and behold, it became a complete phenomenon, peaking at a massive 21 million viewers in 1990. Now, to put that in perspective, the most watched television show of last year, the World Cup semi-final between Croatia and England, was watched by 20 million viewers. That's 1 million less than Neighbours at its peak. Yes, television viewing habits have changed, but that's still a phenomenal figure when you consider it was purchased just to fill up the daytime television schedule, and it's a foreign bloomin' soap opera. For the early stars of Neighbours, the sky was the limit. The cast became megastars, performing for the Queen, becoming pop stars, singing terrible songs by the way, and going on to star in terrible movies about beloved one-on-one fighting games. Yes, indeed, Neighbours proved to be quite the launching pad for a variety of Australia's biggest actors, like Guy Pearce, Margot Robbie, Russell Crowe, Jesse Spencer and Liam Hemsworth, not to mention, of course, dear old Ian Smith. Madge. But time waits for no man, and Neighbours viewership has dwindled since then, finding a new home on Channel 5, which effectively means it's dead, doesn't it really? I mean, if a tree falls over on Channel 5, does it make a sound? I'll always hold an affection for it because I was there at its peak, watching it from 1988 until 2001. I can't quite remember why, as a teenager, I would have watched so much of it. What could it possibly be? What was it about that show that I liked so much? It couldn't have been the storylines. I mean, I was into space and Star Wars and video games and stuff. What was it possibly about that show? There were blokes in it? And old people? Oh, well, there you go. And as we've learned from this series, if a show was ever moderately successful in the 80s and early 90s, then a Spectrum game was sure to come out. And yes, it did. But how do you turn this...
25 years and you still haven't learned.
Oh, God, am I?
No, you're not dead.
into a video game? That's just what coders Impulse had to work out in 1992. And they took the kitchen sink drama and all the passionate teenage love affairs and the trials and the tribulations of the older characters of this Aussie suburb, and they turned it into a race pitching lawnmowers against skateboards. Obviously, you are cast into the faded blue jeans and mullet of Scott Robinson as he races popular characters for no storyline reason at all, apparently. The blurb from the MAG advert just says that they're having a few burgers on the Barbie and just fancied a race, pretty much. It also says that Impulse brings you the game no one else dared bring you. Great, sounds promising. The cast of the game is comprised of Charlene, old Kylie of course, Mike from the Memento film, Hey Mona, Henry with his curly locks, and Matt Robinson, who I can't remember at all. Anyone? Interestingly, when the game came out, most of the characters had left. Kylie had actually quit 4 years earlier. Maybe they knew this was coming. I mean, the in-game character portraits look like this. That's really flattering, isn't it? Don't go expecting a very fair race either. Charlene has elected to use a go-kart, with Henry selecting that well-known racing vehicle, the motorised sit-down lawnmower. Maybe he's been watching Straight Story. Mike chooses to be the Ken to Scott's Ryu and leaps on the same mode of skateboardy transport. Now, Matt Robinson, again, who is he? What's wrong with my brain? Why can't I remember this guy? He chooses to borrow Mike's motorbike. Mike, what are you doing? You had a motorbike and it's allowed and you lent it to this no-name? What are you doing? So the gang decides to race around several famous Erinsborough locales. Ramsey Street, obviously. Erinsborough High, the school, obviously. The Lassiter's complex, which was, I don't know, just a place where Paul Robinson hang out. And the nearby suburb, Anson's Corner, which was often spoken about but never really seen. Several obstacles block the good friend's path, such as Toddlanders and local battle axe Mrs. Mangle, who is in full-on not in my backyard mode. Ooh, she's angry. Because we're in Australia, obviously we get a kangaroo involved, and Craig McLaughlin gets chlamydia off a koala. I might have made that bit up. I hope I did anyway for Craig's sake. Yes, of course, Bouncer's here. Bouncer, if you didn't know, is the greatest soap opera dog of all time. Yes, take that, Wellard. And he has taken part in the greatest soap opera scene of all time, on screen now. And finally, of course, we have trumpet playing fuddy-duddy oaf and most famous character from the show, Harold Bishop. He who was drowned and rose like Lazarus a few years hence. Harold, according to the manual, helped lay the course out, but now appears to be full of self-loathing about it, as he tries to stop all of this tomfoolery by getting in the way. Move out of the way, you bumbling whale! The game works as a simple isometric racer. Simply get to the front before the end to progress to the next course. Watch that meter though, that rates Scott's popularity. Smash into the obstacles too much and his character will eventually crash out of the race and the show. I mean, no one wants to see Jason Donovan smashing Kylie Minogue on Tea Time TV. Smashing into Kylie Minogue on Tea Time TV. Yeah. You can restore some popularity by picking up rubbish. Can you? Really? Is that popular with children? Graphically, it's functional. The graphics aren't really that much better than the aforementioned character picks, if I'm being honest. Sound is similarly underwhelming. There is an attempt, I think, at the theme tune. And other than that, it's pretty sparse. Gameplay wise, it's alright actually, pretty good fun. A smart mix of Paperboy and Super Off-Road racing, with tight controls and a tricky difficulty level that rewards learning the courses. I'd argue that its initial full price release was a bit too much though, but its re-release at a budget price the following year was perfectly acceptable. And if good neighbours have become good friends, then don't get them round to play this. It's a one-player game. It's a singular experience, like when Lucy fell down the well. She was a changed woman after that, several times. Let's have a look at the bouncy reviews then. Well, here we go. Crash apparently hated the game and gave it 42%. Your Sinclair loved it and gave it an 81%. And Sinclair user stood in between them, mediating like Lou Carpenter in his bar, and said, "Look, it's a 62, mate." In short, it's not Bonza, but it's no Drongo either. For a different kind of Neighbours experience, perhaps try the unofficial spoof A Nightmare on Robinson Street. Reg Grundy would not approve of this gunning down of Australia's favourite television children. Right, I'm off to hunt bunyips in the ute, mate. Is that casual racism? I don't know anymore. Anyway, okay, thanks. Bye.